Good evening, folks. This is Fred Campos, and it is February 9th, 2019. And I don't know about you, but I'm getting ready for Valentine's Day. And my anniversary happens to be on 02/02/02. So February has always been a month of giving special gifts, celebrating Valentine's Day, and really reflecting on the communication I have both with my spouse, Karen, as well as my kids. But today, what I want to talk about is being the 25th video in this series of videos to Zachary. Zachary, my friends, my parents that are dealing with blended issues. Let's talk about 10 ways to communicate with your kids. Now, before some of you tune me out, this could be communicating with your spouse. You could be in a perfectly nuclear family and be thinking of ways to communicate with your children. Some of you may have grown children and may be looking for ways to communicate with them. Now, nothing what I'm going to tell you is not something you already know or don't know, but I just want to give you that reminder, and I'm going to share it through the eyes of a blended parent. So the first way to communicate with your kids, number one, is that you should spend some time and go see them. So let's say you're a single parent and you may even be the non-custodial parent and your kid is in elementary school age. Why don't you pick a day and actually go have lunch with them at school? Or maybe you're like me and your kids are grown off to college, or my daughter's currently working at Red Lobster. Pick a day and go have lunch with her there at her particular place of work. Or if she has a particular time that she takes off, then we get together and have lunch. I eat with I'm 48 years old. I still have lunch with my father, maybe once a month or twice a month we'll go to a restaurant. So the number one way to communicate with your kids is, of course, go have a meal with them. Number two, and I know this sounds crazy, just pick up the phone and call them. I mean, that's what a phone is designed for. That's what a smartphone is designed for. I know we use it for a million other things. But call them. And heaven forbid, number three, if you don't get a hold of them, leave them a detailed message. Most messages can let you talk up to 5 minutes. Tell them about your day. Tell them how much you miss them. Tell them how much you love them. Don't feel the need that they have to call you back and you have real-time conversation. Some of the best conversations can be just one way. Just tell them, hey, you were thinking about them, why this day is important, how much you miss them, and tell them that you love them all the time. I think leaving a voicemail is an underrated activity, especially when communicating with loved ones. I might leave a voicemail for my mom. Hey, I was just thinking about you today. Hope you're feeling good. This is what me and the family are doing. This is what's happening with the kids. And love and miss you. It's not necessarily having to invoke a two-way communication. Sometimes leaving a message is the best way to go. And speaking of leaving a voicemail, you may be busy or you may know that your children are working or at school. You can record a video very much like this on your smartphone. Keep it short and simple. And you can either text it to them, airdrop it to them. So you're able to leave them supposedly a message, almost like a voicemail, without actually having to call and talk to them. I know that sounds funny. But speaking of that, number five, which I think our kids' favorite way of communicating, is texting them. I pretty much text my daughter almost every day, at least once a day. Tell her what's going on, tell her that I miss her, tell her any particular events that's happening. When she was at college, I would text her every single day that she was at college, and we would have a brief conversation. That way I'm not necessarily interrupting her. I didn't have any expectations for her to respond in real time. Now that she's working, sometimes she doesn't have the ability to respond immediately, but she gets back to me within the hour. And I think texting is a great way to communicate with your spouse, communicate with your grown children, pretty much communicate with anybody. I have a lot of business associates that will text me questions about websites or ask me if I have an opportunity to sit down and schedule an appointment. Texting's become very, very mainstream. So number 6 is kind of old school, but you could send out an email. If your kids are, at that age above 2nd or 3rd grade, give them an email account, send them an email. If you're a blended family, have an email account that your kids you can write a message to. Ask them how their day's going. It's kind of a cool way for them to communicate with you. Maybe old school for a lot of people, but email is still a method of quickly communicating. You might reach out to them on whatever form of social media. There's a lot of my friends I keep up with that actually I chat with through Facebook Messenger. You might do a Facebook call. You might shout out. I shout out to my 15-year-old son on Twitter quite a lot. What methods of social media could you communicate? Say, hey, I love you, I miss you, just thinking about you. Utilize whatever social media that they are on, whether they're grown or they're young. Send them snail mail. This is my favorite thing to do. It's something that my wife does for me. On my anniversary on February the 2nd, my wife writes me a handwritten letter that she puts a stamp on and mails to the house, and she's done that for 17 years in a row. What I like about snail mail is a couple things. Number one, it's the coolest thing now. Who writes letters? Keep cards or thank you notes or little things with you. I carry a whole slew of just blank white cards, and when I'm not busy, I might jot down a note. Most of the time I'll pre-stamp them. I might even pre-address them to my kids. If you're in a very contested blended family situation, mail those snail mails to your own house. When you see your kids, they come to visit or they come to stay for a while, they've got a stack of mail, and you can tell them about your week and day. It's something that I did a lot with my daughter, sent her tons and tons of letters, both to the other home as well as to mine. And I think from a father to a child, that's a really good thing. And even if you have adult friends and adult family, sending and taking the time to actually sending letters is a way to go. Number 9 is when I travel, I buy postcards and then I keep them in my day timer. And whenever I've got time or I'm riding on a public transportation or maybe I'm Ubering, I might take a quick note. A postcard is really good because it's a situation where you can only write about 3 or 4 sentences. So when I travel, I always buy postcards. They're really cheap. I always have 10 or 15 of them on hand. I keep them in my laptop bag. And when I have a little bit of extra time, I'm sending out postcards. I will go on vacation with my kids to a particular place and buy a bunch of postcards, and then I will write them and drop a postcard throughout the year to remind them of the activities that we did when we were on vacation. And my last and final tip is, especially when your kids are with you, put in a little sticky note. Put it inside their lunchbox. My wife does this great job where she's always writing notes to the kids on their sticky notes and whatever food activity they have or whatever they're sending them to school with, or maybe in their notebook. You might do the same with your kids or with some of your friends. Just have a pad of sticky notes and put them on the mirror for your spouse, or write a note and put it on the refrigerator for your kids that are going to open up the pantry and eat cereal later on. Leave notes for them everywhere. The most important thing is, and especially thinking around the Valentine's, is communication and telling your kids, your family members, your friends how much you love them. These are just some quick ideas that you can do as a good parent, as a good friend, to help your communication better. So, hope you're having a great week. Hope you have a happy Valentine's Day, and I'll catch up with you next week. Take care.